And a power struggle is also playing out.
It's a police standoff, but it's unlike any you've seen. It's unclear exactly who is running the police department and the rest of the village as Mayor Tiffany Henyard struggles to show that she's still in control.
Fox 32 has information indicating the FBI has launched an investigation into controversial Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard.
Dane Placco has been following allegations of her misspending.
Our ultimate goal at the Melanie Fitness Center is to make it self-sustaining.
It's a community center, a taxpayer-funded facility, not a place where you'd expect to find a Risque pool party complete with an advertised cash bar and exotic dancing.
Before a number of wrongdoings were made public, Tiffany Henyard appeared to have a promising future as the first female and youngest mayor of Dalton. However, her reputation quickly soured, and she now seems more like a thug than anything. Nevertheless, nobody could have predicted that she would use a public pool for what was essentially a nightclub party with booby dancing. After taking office on May 8, 2021, Tiffany Henyard, at 37 years old, became the first and youngest female mayor of Dolton, Illinois. This historic accomplishment set a significant era for the village, but only 3 years into her term, controversy broke out in February 2024. Fox 32 Chicago reported that several residents of Durham had confirmed being interviewed by the FBI, and the Chicago Tribune later confirmed the existence of an FBI investigation through an unidentified law enforcement official. Several people were involved, including business owners who felt threatened by Henyard.
This now with an update, Dane.
Yeah, we've been reporting for nearly 2 years on allegations of corruption surrounding Henyard in her capacity as Dalton mayor and Thornton Township supervisor. And now we've learned from multiple sources that federal agents are in fact interviewing witnesses as part of a possible investigation that may or may not result in charges. Did the FBI agents you talked to seem serious about
very serious
concerns?
Very serious. Very.
Lawrence Gardner owns a U-Haul rental and trucking business in South Suburban Dalton and says he went to the FBI several months ago, frustrated that the village of Dalton would not renew his business license. Gardner says he's been harassed and his business raided and shut down by Dalton police. He believes because he refused to make a donation to a civic event sponsored by Dalton Mayor.
Now, let us be crystal clear. It appears that Tiffany has a knack for the dramatics and has made a number of quite unusual maneuvers during her ascent to prominence. But had she not been discovered stealing millions of dollars, she could have been perceived as cool and eccentric.
The amount of overtime it is generating for a handful of officers. Our Dane Placco has more.
Hey guys, this is Super Mayor Tiffany Henyard, the People's Mayor and People's Supervisor.
Tiffany Henyard makes nearly $250,000 a year serving as both mayor of Dalton and Thornton Township supervisor, an elected political double dip. She's charismatic and controversial.
Nobody knows something. Don't nobody know nothing.
Here she is starting a Dalton Village board meeting dressed like the Wesley Snipes character in the movie New Jack City. Later, punctuating her political points with the help of her own DJ.
Every single resident. Pay me what you owe me. Thank you, DJ.
And it's hard to turn anywhere in Dalton without seeing Henyard's picture or online, where she recently commemorated 9/11 with her own photo. I want to ask you a few questions.
Okay.
But when we asked Henyard a few months ago about her use of tax dollars, she was quickly hustled out of the room.
However, the question of why she needs a security force comparable to huge corporations was already being raised by taxpayers. When she served as the town's mayor and there were just 20,000 residents.
Facebook, in videos posted by Henyard herself, we see her being driven around and surrounded by Dalton officers, which got us to wondering, why all the cops?
We weren't opposed to her having the security detail. We asked how long and how often.
Dalton trustee Brittany Norwood says Henyard began assembling her details shortly after being elected in 2021, using hand-picked Dalton police officers. Using a Freedom of Information request, we obtained the work records for 6 of the officers assigned to Henyard's security detail at various times, and showed them to some of Dalton's trustees.
This is a Freedom of Information request we did to see how much
overtime these officers are making on her security detail.
Oh, wow. 162 hours.
162. Oh, that's nothing. What goes through your mind when you see these numbers?
It's disappointing. It's frustrating.
The officers are paid every 2 weeks, which without overtime is 80 hours. But when they're put on Henyard's detail, that 80 hours balloons to well over 100 hours, sometimes 200 hours. And in the case of Officer Terry Young last May, 303 hours worked over a 2-week period. That resulted in a single paycheck of more than $13,000.
Because of this, the FBI ultimately had to issue in. However, the inquiry was essentially only the beginning.
They told me they was investigating and they would be in touch with me.
Gardner is one of 6 people who confirmed to Fox 32 that they've been interviewed by the FBI, ranging from Dalton business owners to a former village employee and at least one public official. And we've learned the FBI has been using electronic surveillance as part of its investigation. Agents are asking questions about Henyard's alleged use of taxpayer dollars and resources, including massive spending on out-of-town trips, hundreds of thousands of dollars in police overtime for her personal security detail, using public employees and tax dollars for personal benefit, and holding up licenses to certain businesses like this Dolton restaurant.
Referring back to the security detail that taxpayers had seen, a police officer also discussed how her extensive detail decreased the number of people available to actively combat crime on the streets.
I was just very stressed and critical to the point of almost breaking.
Former Dalton Police Chief Robert Collins spoke to us from Florida, where he's taken a new job after being fired by Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard late last year. But Collins says he remains frustrated by what he experienced leading an undermanned, overworked police department, while Mayor Henyard demanded a large personal security detail.
You know, wrong is wrong, and there's a time to hold people responsible and accountable for their actions.
Last year, a Fox 32 investigation followed Henyard's detail as Dalton police officers drove her from morning till night, often to her second taxpayer-funded job as Thornton Township Supervisor in South Holland.
She paid no attention to public safety at all, refusing to respond to shooting incidents even.
Just last week, a mass shooting on Sibley Boulevard left 4 people injured. Collins believes the bad guys know there aren't enough cops on Dalton streets.
But Village of Dalton has its challenges with gangs, guns, and drugs. And if those officers aren't there, the visibility isn't there. And if the visibility isn't there, then criminals have free reign.
When we tried to ask Mayor Henyard about her use of the detail last year, we were stopped by Village Administrator Keith Freeman. Mayor, mind if I ask you a couple questions about your security detail?
Absolutely not.
I'm asking her.
Yeah, she said.
By April 2024, things had gotten even worse. On April 19, 2024, the FBI made a big move by breaking into Dalton City Hall to deliver subpoenas for records. Bert O.V. Delson, the legislative counsel for the Dolton Board of Trustees, disclosed that the village administration was dealing with around 40 ongoing lawsuits connected to Heard's actions. What specifically caused this abrupt turn of events in Dalton, for example, in relation to allegations of corruption by town council members, many were shocked to learn that Tiffany had attempted to veto the FBI's investigation of her own behavior.
Last week, a mass shooting on Sibley Boulevard left 4 people injured. Collins believes the bad guys know there aren't enough cops on Dalton streets.
But Village of Dalton has its challenges with gangs, guns, and drugs. And if those officers aren't there, the visibility isn't there. And if the visibility isn't there, then criminals have free reign.
When we tried to ask Mayor Henyard about her use of the detail last year, we were stopped by Village Administrator Keith Freeman. Mayor, mind if I ask you a couple questions about your security detail?
Absolutely not.
I'm asking her.
Yeah, she's.
In the meantime, a church sued her, claiming that they never discriminated against her. Got answers to requests for additional room.
To a federal lawsuit accusing her of discriminating against the church. Redeemed Christian Church of God Resurrection Power Assembly alleges the mayor and the village failed to apply Dalton's zoning code by preventing the church from renovating the building it purchased. The pastor said the church needed more space because attendance has gone up. The church has operated in Dalton for the past 10 years. We're waiting for a response to the lawsuit from the village.
Not to add, she was the target of not 1, not 2, but 3 wrongful termination lawsuits, all of which essentially claimed that she was dismissing individuals who didn't support her. In essence, she dug up dirt on those who disobeyed her demands and tried to expose everyone who stood in her way in her shady business transactions.
It's just announced against controversial suburban Mayor Tiffany Henyard. The plaintiffs, they are all former employees of Thornton Township and the village of Dalton. They are all alleging wrongful termination. They include a former HR manager, a public works administrative assistant, and the buildings department director. Their allegations include retaliation and firings over things that they refused to do for Henyard, like punishing business owners who did not support her, suppressing FOIA requests, and also the requests, they say, to dig up dirt on other employees. An attorney for the women says that there are several.
She even made an attempt to remove any rivals from her position by essentially asking them to work for free in exchange for running for mayor.
Feels just how she did it. Dane?
Anthony and Natalie, she makes a whopping $224,000 a year. Now Thornton Township Supervisor Tiffany Henyard wants to cut the salary of her position by nearly $200,000. What a great move for taxpayers, right? Well, the pay cut only happens if someone else gets that job.
It's maybe the worst attempt to try to dissuade people from running that I've ever seen, and that's a long time.
2 weeks ago, the Township Board passed an ordinance that allows Henyard to continue collecting her $224,000 a year salary. But if anyone other than Henyard gets the job, the ordinance resets that salary to $25,000 a year. Odelson says that's blatantly unconstitutional because you can't set an elected official's salary based on who's holding the seat.
You put a salary to attach to the job, to the officer. So it is a blatant attempt to dissuade other people from running and to allow the current supervisor to maintain the $250,000 or whatever it is.
But you would think that with everything going on in the background, she would want to at least put on a good show. But instead, people assume that she is involved in the attempt to convert a public pool into a strip club. She attempted to pass it off as a pool party, but at the time, the Melanie Fitness Center gained notoriety for hosting a Risque pool party, and not many public pool parties are known to feature exotic dancers.
Derriere with $1 bills. That type of activity belongs at a strip joint or at a private club, not in a village-owned and operated building.
I'm asking that the video be shown. I'm asking that no adult parties be held at the Melody Fitness Center. This is what they're doing. Excuse me, Friday when we went over there was liquor on the premise. The young people IDs were not being checked.
You know, there's children in this room.
This
should not be shown.
The room.
This should not be shown at a board meeting.
It should be shown.
No, it shouldn't.
Mayor would be under new business, a rental policy.
The fitness center manager who rented the space received a motion from Tiffany Henyard to outlaw adult pool parties. $500 for promoters.
Has to be passed and adopted by the board.
Stubbs and other village officials say they were never consulted.
So that's why we're here now, is to adopt a policy of what is going to be charged.
I would like to make a motion to stop all pool parties at Melanie Fitness, and let me rephrase, adult pool parties at Melanie Fitness.
She made a new motion.
There's been no motion made of anything yet.
Okay, Trustee Henyard, can you clarify your motion?
I want to stop all adult activity as it relates to pool parties at the Melanie Fitness.
Okay, that's your motion.
Yes.
Is there a second on that?
Second.
She even went to check with the crew that went to. At the celebration,
Went to that party on Friday, and the way we was treated was so disrespectful. And everybody know I got tough skin, but for the general manager to come in my face and basically intimidate me and tell me to remove myself from a public parkway, which I was standing on the sidewalk, I can literally feel the mist from his spit on my face. You need to leave. You shouldn't even be here. I have every right, just like everybody else, to be at that location. I do believe Trustee Muhammad should be removed from his committee. The reason being, this has been going on for a long time, residents. We had no knowledge that this was going on in our own backyard until this occurred on Facebook. A resident sent the footage out. We all saw what was going on. If you guys would have came there and saw what we saw, you would be saying the same exact thing. We got video footage. We got pictures. We got pictures of the alcohol. They had all kinds of stuff in there. And the female wasn't even being checked going inside the pool party.
However, with her recent actions and the fact that she was hit with a sexual misconduct complaint, many now believe it was only a pretext to get rid of political rivals. Naturally, all of this is merely speculation for the time being, but it appears that she would refrain from engaging in these kinds of actions if they obtained her money. It also appears that the investigations are still bothering her.
Be a show and not really show facts as it relates to what's really going on in our township.
And here we go, another contentious night for Tiffany Henyard at the annual Thornton Township meeting. Henyard is township supervisor, but tonight she was challenged by board members and the public. She was booed loudly at several points during tonight's meeting. Henyard said it's not fair for residents to ask so many questions in the township when she says they don't ask them in other communities.
That's it for now. That's all for now. Remember to share your thoughts with us in the comments section below. Click the bell symbol for additional updates.